Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Mission Possible Repack webinar series. It's Navigating the Transition with Nathan Smith and Steve Rossiter. We're going to hold off a little bit for more people to join the webinar. We're going to start probably around 2:04, 2:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please stay tuned, and the presentation will begin shortly. All right, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning if you're on the West Coast. My name is Keith Adams. I'm the Marketing Communications Manager here at GatesAir, and I would like to welcome you to the second in our Mission Possible Repack webinar series, Navigating the Transition. Today's presenters are Mr. Nathan Smith, the Program Management and Training Director, and Stephen Rossiter, the TV Systems Applications Engineer, both for GatesAir. We're also going to be joined by Stephen Schmidt. Many of you will know is in our service and I believe field engineering. I always get people's titles wrong, but he'll be part of the Q&A session that will happen at the end of Steve Rossiter's presentation. But first up is Nathan Smith, and he is going to talk today about our service offerings, installation, and many things involved with repack preparation. Without further ado, Mr. Nathan Smith.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be with you today. I want to talk a little bit about GatesAir Services and field support. There are basically 5 functions within our group: technical support, repair and service parts, training, field service, and program management. Within our field service group, we offer several functions, several services: installation services, commissioning services, channel change services, transmitter disassembly and move, product upgrades and updates, periodic maintenance, site surveys, service level agreements, and monitoring. Program management, we offer full turnkey solution. It can be scalable from one site to several sites. And as we near repack and are in the midst of repack, a lot of times folks are going to be overwhelmed with the volume of workload. Also, the volume and number of services that are required, and the overall number of people that are required to perform all these services. So in some instances, you may be looking for somebody to take this over to operate a full turnkey solution, and that's something that GatesAir has done for quite some time, has managed programs all around the world from one site to several sites. We can do project planning and coordination, scheduling, logistics, moving equipment from one location to another, or delivery of equipment. Along with our field service guys, we can do full site surveys, stamp drawings that can be used for permit drawings prior to installation of new equipment, tower mapping and structural analysis, and also tower, antenna, and civils installation services. There's a couple things I'm going to go through in a little bit more detail about our services offering. One of them is a full site survey. In order to fully understand what's going to be required in any type of installation, we believe a full site survey can be very beneficial. We offer a full site survey to assist in your repack efforts. In addition to assessing just the transmitters, the equipment that we make, or a transmitter building, we also assess air conditioning, AC power, station load, test equipment, your remote control, the antenna, transmission line, and the tower. And so if you're channel changing, if you're going to be installing, you're going to redo anything with regard to your building or the tower or the transmitter, we recommend a full site survey. We're staffed to basically come in and do a full service site survey. Part of the deliverable that we provide is a full set of CAD drawings that can then be used for permit drawings. And I'm going to go through just a quick example of what something can look like. On your screen right now, you'll see a Sigma 40 kilowatt transmitter positioned within a building. And for whatever reason, going to go with a new transmitter. We need to see what the dimensions of the building look like and how the RF system and the transmitter are positioned within the building, to see if we have enough room to install a new transmitter without taking the existing transmitter off air. The next slide shows what the existing Sigma transmitter looks like with its RF system alongside a ULXT D60PA 50 kilowatt transmitter. And as you can see, the new transmitter is in the existing space of the building, also with heat exchangers, the additional equipment positioned just fine. The existing transmitter still runs, but we're able to do the installation. You can all determine that by completing a site survey, completing the drawings, and then we'll make them available to you as a full site survey package. The next slide shows not only was that available to install the ULXT D60PA 50 kilowatt transmitter, we were also able to put in a ULXT backup transmitter in this space. So now you're in a position to switch over, take out the old transmitter, and put in a backup, all within that existing space. The other thing is what happens if I don't have enough space to accommodate the new installation? We have a solution for that as well. That Steve Rossiter will be speaking about this specific product after me, and it's basically a transmitter that's in a trailer that can be taken to almost any location. One of the other item that is very important in any type of site survey is to understand the conditions of the tower. We have to change the antenna. If so, do you have tower drawings, foundation drawings, and a geotechnical analysis? Do you have an inventory of all the equipment on the tower? All of this is really important. And a lot of towers, towers were built 30 years ago. Since that time, towers have changed zoning codes. Municipalities have changed zoning codes and standards several times. Some municipalities will continue to allow that original code to be used on that tower and redoing a structural analysis. Other municipalities and zoning locations will require you to use the most up-to-date revision of the code, of the standard. And all of those things taken into consideration with the tower drawings, your inventory, can affect even the smallest change on your tower. This is a service that we can provide and have provided for quite some time, and it proves to be very beneficial, not only providing the structural analysis, but bringing it all together with the rest of the site survey. Quickly in my summary, our department has over 300 years of combined broadcast experience. We can deploy personnel to anywhere in the world. We have a multifunctional group with a wide range of technical knowledge. We're here to help. And one of the things, and probably the most important thing, of the items that I mentioned earlier, almost all of them are reimbursable under Repack. That concludes my part of the presentation. I'll now hand it over to Steve Rossiter.
Well, hello, gentlemen. I am actually an applications engineer, so I work both with the product line management and also with our project management as well. So, and some of the things that comes in when we start looking at project management is rental transmitters or transmitters that we can temporarily put in order for you to fulfill the repack requirement. So we get questions like this all the time saying, can we provide this? And the answer is yes, we can. Now, understand that rental transmitters, okay, we don't know how many there's really required out there during this repack time. So we only hold a small number of rental transmitters that are available today. And typically, in the past, we've always used these transmitters for emergency purposes. You know, if you had a hurricane such as like Katrina, or you had a tower failure and the tower came down for some reason, or natural disasters. And that's what we provided, transmitters for emergency purposes, and then only rented them out on a small basis. But we're looking at that it may be essential for us to be able to provide this service going forward to our customers and allow them to rent a transmitter for the time during this repack. So as we look at the repacks, there's some different possibilities, and a lot of these possibilities get very complex. So you get a very large transmitter that's difficult to rent. So typically the transmitters that we try to provide for rentals are smaller transmitters, typically air-cooled. They'll be around 2 kilowatts or less. We even have, a 500-watt transmitter in a little flyaway case that allows us to send this very quickly to a site and set up easily. We can provide the mask filters, because as you know, with every transmitter, you have to have a mask filter. We can provide the mask filter on the channel that you request the rental for. That may be at your existing channel, it may be at your new repack channel, depending on how you're doing your transition. So we can also provide other transmitters. If we start getting into these complex systems, we can provide transmitters that are in a outdoor enclosure system. Okay, and you can see more details on that actually on the GatesAir website, which is www.gatesair.com, and we have a brochure out there for these as well. So you can always take a look at that. But these options allow us to actually set up a pad. If you don't have enough space in your building, we can provide an enclosure with a transmitter inside, or a shelter. We have some customers that request a shelter to put a new transmitter in, so we can also provide those as well. So and Nathan actually Smith was one of the people that helps with customers to determine what is going to really be needed, and his team works with a lot of that. So as Nathan said earlier, we also have the option for a trailered type transmitter system. Now, this particular system can be liquid or air cooled. The issues is this is typically a purchase item, not something that we would rent out. And these typically go to larger groups. So, if you had like 5 stations that you were trying to transition, we would have something like this built up, and you could actually use this at all 5 of the stations during the transition, because the filters are tunable. You retune the filter to the new channel, you change the transmitter to the new channel, boom, you're back up on air again at this new location. That also does help in the future. In other words, after repack, so what do you do with this thing? Well, honestly, it can be used at a number of different things. It can be used as a backup for, again, natural disasters or hurricanes or other things or unexpected emergencies. And if you have a large group with a number of stations, you can use that. Could also be used as looking forward to the future, ATSC3. It could be used as an SFN station that you park someplace and get additional coverage if needed. Could also be used at major events such as Olympics, Super Bowl, those kind of things. So it's portable enough that you can use it in other applications. So this is another possible solution for your repack. So, looking at a wide range of transmitters, a wide range of installations, we don't know what you need specifically, but we can provide the service of a rental transmitter. We always recommend that it be smaller, than 2 kilowatts and be in the air-cooled realm. But these rental transmitters, most of all, are reimbursable expense under the FCCY, the LD catalog for repack. And typically these are used to facilitate that change of operation. So GatesAir as a whole is committed to all of our customers to provide support, whether it's an emergency transmitter system to get you back on air, or if you need a rental during the repack, or you need something for specific, to your needs, we're there to help you. And we have, as Nathan's pointed out, we have a highly trained service team, highly trained sales team, engineering team that are dedicated to help you guys no matter what. So at this point, if you guys have any questions or anything like that, Nathan or myself or Steve Schmidt is on the line, and they'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Steve. And before we get to the Q&A session, a little bit of housekeeping. Again, thanks for being part of this webinar series. And being a series, this was not the last. Tomorrow, there'll be some more information as well with our Repack Roundtable event, which is Thursday, March 2nd at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we'll have people discussing things about like the effect of repack on FM stations and certain reimbursement scenarios, ATSC 3.0 deployment and what the FCC thinks about that, and more. And we'll have Rich Redmond, our Chief Product Officer, Martin Horspool, our Product Manager of Television Transmission, Joe Cecilia, who is the Market and Product Development Strategy Manager in TV Systems, Mark Voorhees, who is our Director of Sales for Key Accounts in the Americas. And our special guest will be Pamela Gallant, who's the Associate Division Chief of the Video Division of the Federal Communications Commission. So all of you who are going to be here tomorrow, you're going to have a wealth of information to glean from these people. And again, you'll have a direct line to the FCC. So please stop by the Repack Roundtable webinar tomorrow. So again, if you have any questions, I see there are a few that have popped up here, but you can use the live chat that is on our webinar page, or if you're checking in through YouTube, this is a YouTube live webinar. So, excuse me, the live event, the live chat is there as well. I guess the first question was a question we got yesterday from Spencer the Boss. How are you doing? Nice to see you again. His question had been about the flex use in exchange for relocation expenses as part of what the FCC rules, and how it's a very critical component in Repack that hasn't really been discussed. I think that question is probably better set for tomorrow's presentation, and I believe that you'll get a little more out of that. But does anyone here on the webinar, Steve, either of the Steves or Nathan, are you familiar with the concept of flexible use and what the FCC is thinking, how that relates to anything we would be able to do for our customers?
I think we're familiar with it, but it really hasn't been addressed as a direct question to the FCC, as far as I know. So tomorrow, when Pamela comes on from the FCC, that question should be directed towards her, so she can really respond to this and get him the correct answer.
Yeah, that probably makes sense. And I know he was just curious if there were some opinions from these guys, and he says incorrect. So yeah, we'll see what is said tomorrow, if you don't mind, but I'm sure you are definitely not the only person interested in anything related to and I assume you're talking about flex use of spectrum versus the flexible use of gear. I'm not entirely sure, but then again, I'm not with the FCC and I'm not an engineer, so but yeah. He said, punt it again. I will wait until tomorrow. We appreciate your patience on this, Spencer. Tomorrow you'll get some good info. Nathan, do you have any interesting stories? You can probably leave out particular customer names, but is there anything really exciting that you heard from someone during a site survey that they mentioned, wow, that was completely worth it to be able to have that kind of information in the pre-planning mode?
Well, I think we've done several site surveys and structural analyses over the course of the last year as broadcasters prepared for Repack, and really just to get an overall, what they're all telling us is that they just want to get an overall idea of what they have, to have a tool to use to make a decision, and probably the things that we found most from our site surveys is just the issues with towers. I think that just because a tower's been standing for a long time, a lot of people think that, oh, it's just fine, and what they find is that some of these towers have been here for such a long time that most folks just aren't up to speed on their towers, and just they've worked fine for a long time, and now we got to make some changes to them, and now we've got to pay special attention. So I think that's probably been the biggest lesson over the course of the last year, is that there's been some surprises that we were able to address right away because we went through and completed some site surveys. And along with those towers is that there were a lot of broadcasters that didn't have any information regarding their towers, just because, stations had sold over the period of time and documents didn't transfer. And so in those cases, we had to go out there and do some tower mapping to actually measure the steel, take an inventory of the towers. And I can tell you that if we're not ahead of the game, there's just not that many tower guys out there that are gonna be available on short notice. So
Exactly.
not a real good scenario to be in if we wait to the last minutes. But I think that's probably the biggest lesson over the course of the last year, is that we've really been able to tackle some of these issues ahead of time, just by knowing what the site looks like.
That makes all kinds of sense. We do have another question from Scott Kessler, who participated yesterday as well. Hello, Scott. His question is: we currently have a UAX 2000, which is retunable, which is what Martin Horspool pointed out yesterday. His question actually is there any way to get external site data, that is generator and AC power status, building temperature, etc., into the current web GUI? Is that a Steve or?
Yeah, I can answer that one, Keith.
Right.
And correct, yes, the UAX 2000 is a retunable transmitter, but at the current level, the web GUI that we have now, it's not able to display any external site data. So there's no current analog and status inputs that will read back out onto the screen at this time. That product's still in production. We still make analog versions of that for international use. So going forward, the product will be supported for a number of years, but there'll be somewhat limited any current updates to the web GUI for that particular product. But we'll still be supporting it for down the road for a number of years.
All right. David Williams asks the question: is there a list of stations that will move to new channels available anywhere on the web? Maybe. I personally, I believe that there is not yet, and I think they're going to deploy that sometime soon. I think channel reassignments are still something that's happening. But Steve Rossiter, would you have more input on that?
Actually, the answer to that is no. There is nothing as of right now. And until all the letters go out to all the people, and this is what I've actually gotten from talking with some of the people at the FCC, until all the letters are out for the minimum of phase one, there's no communication really going on between the stations, other than they've got this letter, here's your new channel, but they're still not able to communicate back and forth at this point in time. So it'll be until it becomes, I think it's sometime around, March, the end of March, when they're going to actually be able to put it out for everybody, so that everybody knows the new channels and stuff.
And again, I think tomorrow, Ms. Gallant from the FCC will probably be talking a bit about timeline milestones and what they're really expecting on specific calendar dates in the near and far future. So definitely tune in, and she may be able to shed a little more light on that particular question.
It's always better to get it from the horse's mouth, as they say.
Yeah. Yeah, she's very knowledgeable about a lot of stuff. So, as we are, but certainly for someone who can speak on the behalf of that particular horse, she's the person who's able to do so for sure. She's been a part of our previous our Repack summits, and she's a very helpful and vocal advocate, not only of what the FCC is doing, but definitely of broadcast in general. So it's very nice feather in the cap to have her participate tomorrow.
Now, one thing that came up is, I know that Nathan talked a little bit about, the towers and, those issues, but some of the other things that we've seen from a site survey standpoint is AC requirements. A lot of these stations are 480 volts, and the new transmitters are really designed around 208 volt and 380 volt. So, one of the things that we've seen is almost everybody's looking at, step down transformers and those kind of things, and reuse of some of the existing AC, systems that they currently have. So that's another challenge that we've seen doing these site surveys. The other thing is grounding. Some of the grounding stuff that we've seen out there is old. I mean, they haven't checked the grounding rods in years, and so having the grounding systems looked at of the current sites is also extremely important as we move forward.
And you speak of moving forward as well. We'll talk about this in tomorrow's webinar for sure. But are there any things that you've heard from customers about preparations for ATSC 3.0 and what things, what kind of hurdles or things people should kind of be looking out for if they're ready to go next gen?
Well, as you know, there's a lot of questions about 3.0 that come up. Some of them have to do with coverage. How is going to 3.0 going to affect coverage? Some of that is decisions that the FCC still has to make, how they're going to treat that. The other issues that come up are we're going from an 8 VSB modulation to a COFDM modulation. So we have peak to average ratio differences. So when you look at line and you look at RF components, will the new RF components in line handle the increased peak to average ratios? Those are kind of questions that come up. And a lot of times most customers are fine, but when you start looking at customers that are co-located with multiple stations through the same combiner, then that transition to ATSC3 becomes a little bit of an issue because of the peak to average ratios that can add up per channel. So there's some things that can happen there, that each station is going to be different. And 3.0 does have some, things that they really need to think about going forward. So there's not just one thing, it's many things that it could affect.
Which again, it's for all of the different kinds of benefits in that coverage and just the complexity of what the next gen can offer. It seems likely that there'd be complexity of the deployment of it. So yeah, that sounds like a reasonable answer. If there was something, a really cool feature that you wanted to showcase about some things we're going to show at NAB, specifically for Repack, we have a lot of updated products, but we currently are looking to let everyone know about our high power liquid and air cooled transmitters and how they can really take you to the next level. And we've designed a lot of things specifically for Repack. So Steve, is there anything you'd want to be able to kind of toot our horn a little bit about those products?
Well, as you know, we have the ULXTE product, which is our newest liquid cooled product, and it actually has the same power level, whether it's 8 VSB, ATSC1 today, and COFDM going forward in the future. So when they make that transition from ATSC to 8 VSB, it's they don't have to worry about how much power can I get out of the transmitter. It's going to be the same as what they are today. So that's one thing. And we're also got the air cooled product, which is the same thing. It's a UAXTE, which is the newer E type pallet. We've got a lot of new products, but we're also looking at newer products in the VHF realm as well. So you can look forward to seeing the VHF air-cooled, which is the VAXT product that we're going to be presenting there at NAB as well. And all of our products use our new platform for our exciter, which is the XTE exciter. So, which is a fantastic piece of equipment for both ATSC today and ATSC going forward in the future. So, I mean, there's a lot of things to really look forward to. But above and beyond just the equipment, there's also a lot of knowledge that's going to be presented at NAB. There's a number of papers that's going to be given by a number of engineers that are from GatesAir. So you can look forward to, if you really like going to those seminars and listening to some of those speakers, there's a lot of GatesAir engineers going to be speaking about ATSC3 and about, the transition going forward.
This is very true. There's a question that came in from Timothy Dorm. His question, which would be for Nathan, I'm assuming, would be, do you have a cost range for a full site survey? And I'm sure there's a very broad answer that you could give to that, but could you talk a little bit to the affordability of getting a full and proper site survey?
Well, like you said, there is a wide range depending on what you want to do. I think the best way for Timothy to get a solid price would just be to send me an email, nathan.smith@gatesair.com, or he can call me at 217-257-1091, and I'll be able to put together a quote specifically for Timothy's specific needs.
That's awesome. When it comes to updating everything at the site, can you speak a little bit to can either of you speak to the benefits of looking into updating monitoring techniques and being able to look at signal quality as a monitorable and point of analysis kind of approach to any updates people are going to do?
I guess for monitoring, one of the things that we will have at NAB is a monitoring system. It's through one of the companies that we work with, which is Gallant, and we're actually going to be showing that, which will actually look at your IP stream ahead of the transmitter or your transport stream ahead of the transmitter. It'll look at, the RF after the transmitter as well as your off-air transmission. So it can look at multiple different places within the system to help determine if you have any issues or anything like that, and helps monitor that system. So that'll actually be presented at NAB. So it'll be something that I welcome everybody to come see while we're there at NAB.
Yeah, Maxiva Stream Assure is the name of the product, and yeah, it's really neat to be able to do what you can while you're working. I'd say getting your things ready for repack, probably to know that there's a way to look from transport to the antenna to see the integrity of that signal and what kinds of things you can do to mitigate data loss and signal loss if it happens, and find out why it's happening. So yet another neat thing we try to let people know about. Let's see, right now it is 2:42 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we do have time allotted all the way until 3 p.m. But in case I don't mention it, I'd like to let everyone know, in case there are questions that you have that don't get answered, we may end early here. But if you wanted to get in touch with Steve Rossiter, how might you be able to do that, Steve?
You can contact me either by my email or by phone. My email is steven.rossiter@gatesair.com. And my phone number, if you need to reach me by phone, is 217-221-7229, and that goes directly to my office, and be happy to answer any questions or help you in any way I can.
That's great. Stephen Schmidt, would you be able to also share any kind of contact information?
Sure, absolutely. My direct office number is 217-221-7572. And my email is Schmidt. Well, you can do Stephen, STEVEN .Schmidt, SCHMITT @GatesAir.com.
Awesome. And again, if you have any questions for marketing, that would be marketing@GatesAir.com, or you can contact me directly, Keith Adams, KEITH.ADAMS @GatesAir.com. If you have any questions about this webinar or future webinar topics you might be interested in us taking care of, we definitely appreciate everyone's attention and their support in this particular series. And again, we look forward to seeing anyone and everyone here check out tomorrow's, which is the Repack Roundtable at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday, March 2nd. And again, we'll have Rich Redmond, Martin Horspool, Joe Cecilia, Mark Voorhees, and also Pamela Gallant of the FCC. We do have another question, so I'm not going to let everyone off the hook just yet. But Scott Kessler again has another question. What's the turnaround time for returning an exciter for a UAX 2000? And he continues, can we use one or two of the new exciters that can be upgraded to ATSC 3.0 in conjunction with the current ones?
The short answer to that, I'm not sure if your UAX 2000 is got the older LPU. I'm assuming it might. We have a couple of different versions of that. We have a larger LPU, and then we have what we call the compact class LPU. But we will have a new LPU that can be, your transmitter can be upgraded to. It would require 2 new exciters and probably use a MSC dual drive and eliminate your TCU, and reuse your power blocks for that particular transmitter. And that would be upgradable to ATSC 3.0 in that case.
Hopefully that is the answer you're looking for, Scott. Yeah, it's very the XTE, the new exciter, is a very amazing. Just our ideas for future proofing, basically, not just to make sure that you have the cleanest and smoothest signal at whatever powers you're looking to attain, but we're really, it's not just talk to be able to handle every modulation that exists and now and into the future. So we want to make sure we have you covered better.
Yeah, the LPU the LPU that you currently have for your UAX 2000 is based on the M2X exciters cards, and it would be a similar type that what we have now. And the new one would be a new amplifier, and then the XTE cards would be plugged in with that amplifier. So.
All right. If there are no other questions, again, we'll be happy to answer things offline. But again, we want to thank everybody for attending and being a part of today's Navigating the Transition webinar for the Mission Possible Spectrum Repack webinar series. Again, this is Keith Adams with Steve Rossiter, Nathan Smith, and Stephen Schmidt, and we're signing off. And again, thank you very much and have a great day.